So we're going to basically create a web app from scratch. I'm going to show you the different components of a web app. We're going to talk about customizing a web app and just really getting back to Access Web Apps 101. And then we always have time to ask questions. So as you're as we're going through different things, feel free to stop and ask me questions. We've only got about maybe half a dozen, 7 or 8 people here, so we've got plenty of time to ask questions. So please do that. And so we're going to go ahead and start by showing you how to create a web app from scratch. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bounce over to Site Contents. So now I'm in Office 365, and I'm in the Site Contents screen. And again, I'm going to try and keep an eye on the chat window as well. So as like I said, please type in any questions in the chat window, and I'll try and keep an eye on that. And so right now we're in Site Contents. What we're going to do is actually going to create an Access web app from scratch. And so right here, we're just going to go ahead and click on Add an App. So I'm going to click on that. And what I do is I type in ACC for Access and hit Enter. And that will go ahead and show me Access apps right here. So I can go ahead and click on Access App, and it's going to ask me, what do we want to call our new Access web app? And so I'm going to go ahead and type in, I'll just do Access web apps. Let's just do September of 2015 and do a create. And so what this will do, I'm going to go ahead and I see some additional people joining us. Great. So what it's going to do is it's actually going to start creating this Access Web Apps pointer for us. And as soon as this is done, you'll see that this changes and this verbiage goes away. So now this Access Web App pointer is here. I can click on this, and we're going to go ahead and open this app in Access. So we're going to go ahead and click on this. What it does is it downloads an ACCDW file here. And if I click on this, it's going to go ahead and open in Microsoft Access. And hold on tight because it popped up in my other screen. So I'm going to move this over. And so in here, it says add tables. So we have the ability to just add a blank table, but I really like the features that are already built in to Access, where you can use one of their templates to build what you want. So let's say we wanted to build, let's say a project management database. If I'm here and I just type in project and hit enter, it'll give us some different choices, whether we want projects, home construction, employees, tasks, or billable hours. And let's say in this case we want to do a tasks database. So we're going to go ahead and click on tasks, and it's going to go ahead and build this for us. A lot of times when I'm talking at conferences, I'll give a little presentation on creating an Access web app in 90 seconds or less. And that basically what you just saw me do is that part of the presentation. Basically you go into Site Contents, you create the app within the Site Contents, just create an Access app. It downloads the ACCDW, and then you add tables. So the cool thing about this is that it adds our tasks. It adds a task table and an employee table and all the pieces that go along with that. So if we look here at the navigation pane, we can see that we have a table called employees, a table called tasks, and then you see these different forms. So we've got employees, data sheets, and lists. We've got tasks, data sheets, and lists, and then we've got an area by group and an area by status. So it actually built this entire database for us. So in here, where we are is it gives us this little navigation area, and this is what the user will see when they're running this. Now, one of the cool things I like about Access Web Apps is that users don't have to install Access to use this app, this program. All they need is a web browser, and for you to share the application to them to give them those rights. So if we want to take a look at this in the browser window, I'm going to go ahead and just click on Launch App here, and it's going to open up what our app looks like in the web browser. And so in here, we have a tasks area and an employees area. So you'll see here under employees, we have a list, and this is the list view. The list view contains a little filtering area, and it's looking basically at a single record. You've got a data sheet, and data sheet is just like what we're used to seeing a data sheet within Access itself. The biggest difference is that with standard Access Desktop, we don't need a data sheet view because we can just use a data sheet. In the browser world, we need to have a view that is a data sheet. I look at it kind of like a continuous subform where you can see all the records, but you can't just display a standard data sheet within the browser. So we've got list, we've got data sheet, and then we've got by group, which is basically grouping of data. And since it's employees, you're grouping it by it's either the full-time or part-time or contract information. And so with this list, I'm going to go ahead and add some data here. But we're in employees, we're in list, so we're in the mode where we can actually add a record. So I'm going to go ahead and go in here, and I'm going to go ahead and add in. I've got I use LastPass, so it just auto-filled my information here. So we've got employee name, first name, last name, company, email, that kind of stuff. All of that kind of information is right there. You can also see that along with building your list view and your data sheet view, it automatically created your subform, in this case, the tasks that go along with this employee. So it automatically builds that subform for you as well. You can also have a web page where you have a hyperlink here. So if I have like a LinkedIn page, I could put that link here, and it'll automatically take me there. Here at the top, we have what's called an option group. And with this, we have the ability to add, delete, edit, save, and cancel. One of the nice things I like about this little option area is that these option buttons are very, very consistent. So in any Access web app that you build, it defaults with these buttons at the top. So if you're anything like me or Jack or Judy, it seems like whenever we're working with a client, it seems like in some cases they may have an exit door in the lower left, lower right, upper right. Sometimes they use an exit door button. Sometimes they have the word close to close a form, and there's not a lot of consistency between developers because everyone has their own little way of doing things. The nice thing about this is it's very consistent. So it doesn't matter if Walt or myself or Brent or whoever designs a database, is this option group is in the same place. And we all automatically have, because this is a list view, it has an easy way to filter data quickly. And so in this case, I've got data in there. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And now I'm going to add a new record. And so I'm just going to put in, employee 2, and I'm going to pick on Judy. I'll put in Judy Jones here. And just for kicks up, use the same company. So we've got Judy Jones added here too. So if you notice, as soon as I hit the Save button here, this saves the record and automatically adds her to this list. Now, if I want to add another record, I'm going to put in employee 3, and I'll pick on Jack this time. And again, if I hit the Save button, it will go ahead and add Jack to this list as well. So it automatically adds people to this list and allows you to filter by anything within these fields. So if I were searching for the word data and hit enter, it would find, because Judy and I are both assigned to this company, then it will automatically filter by that information. If I could type in the letter K, and it will find anything that has a K in it. And because WorkSmart has a K, it found both mine and mine and Judy's. And because Jack has a K in it, it found his record. So it'll automatically show. It basically filters by anything within this record, anywhere in this record at all. So having this is really a nice way to filter data. We don't have to do anything special to make those kind of things happen. So I'm going to jump. This is the list view, and the list view has this filter built in. If I go over to datasheet view, the datasheet view again is very similar to the datasheet that we're used to in standard desktop machines. We're just looking at row by row. We can highlight the row, we can delete things, and we have add and delete, because in edit view, in our regular datasheet view, we're automatically in edit mode, so we don't need an edit button to do that. You'll also see here that we have this little down arrow. What this down arrow means is just that you can export the data that you see here to Excel. And if I click on this, it's going to automatically download this to an Excel file. And if I were to open it, it gives us a pretty formatted Excel file. Oops, cancel. I'm going to enable editing here. So you've got these kind of the green bar paper, if you remember the old accounting green bar. But so you've got blue and white here. But all of these are on auto filter. So you have the ability to choose. I only want to see those that are blank. So you'll only see Jack's record here. So you've got that auto filters automatically built into that record. We'll go ahead and minimize Excel for now. And so that's what that data sheet is. And then if we have, we've got Andy as full-time, Jack here is full-time, we'll go ahead and make Judy part-time. So if we edit that and we choose part-time and then save this, now we've got the ability to use this by group. So in here, we can see there's 2 full-time people and 1 part-time person. So, and again, we didn't have to do anything special to build these forms. It automatically did this for us. So it's very, very quick and easy to add those kind of things. I'm going to jump back over to Access here, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you what happens when we add a brand new table. So in this case, let's say I just want to have a table that is only notes. And so in here, I'm just going to create a table, just choose a new table. I can either type in a template. I can type in a note if I want to try and find something. Or in this case, I'm just going to click on Add a New Blank Table. So in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a note date. So we'll just have a date and time field. In here, we'll automatically default it to now. And then we'll have the note itself. and I'm going to make this long text field. And so now we have the note. The last thing we need to do then is we need to link this note back to the employee. And so the way to do that is, and I'm going to go back into design view of employees so we can see here. So we've got an ID for the employee. We also have an employee number in here as well. And so in this case, I'm going to go ahead and use the employee number. If I can type. And in here, one of the choices we have is called lookup. And so you can see the different types of data types we have: short text, long text, numbers, currency, yes, no, hyperlink, image. We've got a calculated field and a lookup. Lookup really takes the place of those relationships that we're used to in Access desktop apps. So instead of seeing that relationships window, you have these lookups. In this case, I want the lookup field to get the values from another table. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that. I'm going to choose employees, and it says which value do we want to display. We're going to display employee number here. It actually should store the ID itself. So I should really call that employee ID. I'm actually going to cancel that, and we'll call this employee ID so it doesn't mess up. We'll make that a lookup. Going to look up the field employees. We're going to display employee number, but it's actually going to store the ID, the number. And so now this lookup is there. If we ever wanted to modify that lookup, we can go back in here, and we can see this lookup value gets the values from employees, which is displaying the employee number. And so that's what it's showing there. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to save this table. And I'm just going to call this notes. And what I want you to see is kind of watch what it's doing on the left-hand side. As soon as we add the notes table here, notice what it did. It added a notes data sheet, and it added a notes list. So in here, we can go back in, and we can go ahead and double-click on this, and we can see the notes list automatically has this little filtering area. It's got our option group at the top. We have the ability to add custom options as well. We'll get into that in a little bit. And we have note date, employee ID, and note. Now, in this case, I'm going to make a couple changes. I'm going to put a space there, and I'm going to go ahead and put employee ID with a space there. The note is fine. We might want to make this a little bit bigger. Actually, in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to drop this down here and expand it so we get a little bit more room to work with. And so now we've got our little notes list here built. So I can go ahead and save that. And if I want to, I can go ahead and close out of that. And I'm going to close out of this table. It also built this other sheet called Notes Data Sheet. And if I look at that, you'll see that we have note date, note, and employee ID. And again, I can change the note date. I can add this. If I hadn't done it in the, if I hadn't done this in the captions area when I built that, I could do it there. And again, I can move these around a little bit. Maybe I want to make this a note longer because we know we're going to store more information there. So we have that automatically built. We can go ahead and close that and save it as well. So we'll talk a little bit about editing this data and kind of navigating around this. If I go back to the browser, I want to show you right now we have tasks, employees, and notes. If I go back to the browser again, and I'm looking at it, you'll see here that we've only got tasks and employees. And the reason why is because this is browser-based. We have not saved the changes to, we have not refreshed this browser here. And so therefore, it's only going to show us what it was like at that time that it was loaded. So I can either hit this refresh button here, or we can, for me, I prefer to hit this, which basically just reloads the browser. And so now, once we click on this, now we'll see tasks, employee, and now we've got this notes area here. You'll see that the note date automatically has this little calendar, so we can pick a date here if I wanted to. I should probably not pick a date previous to today's, after today's date, because it's kind of hard to put in a note after today. And then here I've got employee ID. Now, with employee ID, this is an autofill property. And so if I start typing in, well, here, I used number instead of a person's name. So if I typed in the number 2, I could choose that, and then I could type in a note. That was kind of dumb of me. I should have used employee name here instead of the employee ID. But here we have that. I can go ahead and save that. And that will, you have to always remember, because we're working with a browser, you always need to remember to save that record. It's not like a standard access where when you move from one record to another record that it automatically saves. It doesn't do that in the browser world. You have to actually choose save in order for that to happen. So we're going to go back into Access again. So you can go ahead and open that. And now we're going to make some edits. So we're going to jump over to employees, and we're going to edit this list view here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Edit. Now, the one thing I don't like about how the order in which these are put is that usually I would have employee number and then first name, last name, company, job title. And so normally, and you'll notice here, as I click on controls, because I'm in a browser window, controls cannot overlap each other. So you'll see as I move a control around, it will automatically make room for wherever that control is. So I could put first name, last name. If I wanted to, I could put the company beneath that. We could put the job title beneath that, whatever we want. The downside of doing it this way is that within Access, because we're working, again, in the browser world, the browser does not have the capability to tab up. Well, I shouldn't say the browser doesn't have the capability, because some browser software does allow you to. But Access does not allow you to. If you have these fields up here, Access does not allow you to tab down this column and then down this column. You don't have that capability. One of the things that I did as a workaround to that was that I created an after update property. So I created an action that after you type in something, then I would have it go to this control, which works great unless you're in a situation where you're not typing in something. So if you have a first name, last name, and then you type in a company, then that after update property doesn't execute because no update has occurred. And so that's one thing to keep in mind in this browser world that we're working with. In the ideal world, one of the things I would love to see is to have them say, hey, let's group these together and tab through these, and then let's tab through these, and then tab through these. But we'll see. We'll see if they end up doing that at some point. But so the nice thing though is that you can't overlap things. It'll just make room for whatever you're working with. So that's kind of nice. The other thing I want to point out over here is that this is our list view, and our list view has properties as well. And so I'm going to go into this. Right now you can see it says display name first, last. If I click on this, you can see the primary, it says display name first last. I could actually have it, instead of having the name, I could say, oh, show me the company here. And then the secondary field, let's go ahead and do last name. Or let's go ahead and do last first, the concatenation of those. What we also have here is a thumbnail. So if we're working with a set of data where you have pictures in there, for instance, let's say you have a company directory, you have the ability to choose the picture that goes along with this. So in this case, we don't have any pictures, but that's a nice thing too. If you have pictures of employees and you've got 4 different John Smiths that work at your organization, you'd be able to see the picture of them, which is kind of a nice way of selecting it. One of the other ways that I've utilized this thumbnail is in one of the web apps that I created called waterfallcalc.com. Within that app, I actually use the thumbnail as a status. And so for that status, there's different kinds of loan properties within the mortgage servicing industry, and those are things like forbearance or HAMP or repayment or loan modification. And so I actually use that thumbnail to show me the status instead of a picture of a person. So that's another way that you can use that thumbnail. You'll see here what's the sort field. Since company is the one that we're working with, I'm going to make company the sort field, and then I can have the sort order ascending or descending. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and save it. You got to remember to save. And again, I can either go back to my browser and refresh it, or if I click on Launch App, it will add another tab. I'm using Chrome here, but now you'll see that this is sorted by company, and because since Jack doesn't have a company, his appears first, and so that's what you see there. But you see here, you can see that I have employee number, first name, last name. So it's saved the order in which I have these. But again, if I went to edit and I hit the tab key, it's going to go over to home phone instead of going down this column. And that's why I say that tab order doesn't carry over like a desktop system would. Okay, cool. So let's go back. We're going to go back over to Access again. And so this is our, again, this is our employee list. We've got this area. And within these different areas, we can add actions to any of these text boxes. We can also create a button which adds an action as well. So perhaps we want to, since we're working with an employee, maybe I want to have a button. We can see the notes automatically is added down here, but we could add a button as well to get to the notes screen. And so if we wanted to do that, we would just go over here to design. I would, and wherever we have whatever's highlighted is where the button's going to go. And so if I'm on last name and I click on button, it's going to insert a button below last name. Of course, I can always move that. That's fine. And I can move these around, move these up again. But what I prefer to do is to be on the field where I want to add a button beneath it, then click on the button, and it will automatically add it beneath it. So we'll take a look at some of these parts of this button. So here you'll see that we have data, we have formatting, and then we have actions. So in the data, this is basically where, in this case, it's a button. So we're just going to name this. So I'm going to call this button Go to Notes. So we've got that added. Under formatting, this is where we can put in the caption. and I'm just going to put in open notes. And then I can add a little tooltip. This is to open notes if I want to do something like that. We can make it visible or hidden. We can make it enabled or not enabled. And we can always automate this in the future so that if it's disabled, we can enable it as based on other things that we type in. So we have data formatting, and then we have the action. So in action, you see that we have an on-click property. So we're going to go ahead and click on on-click, and this takes us into the macro world. You'll notice that there is no VBA. Everything, all the quote-unquote coding is actually done in the macro language. So you really want to get as familiar as possible to working with macros. The nice thing is Microsoft makes it really easy for you to find and work with the different properties in here. So we could, let's say if we were opening up the notes form, the notes list form view, they call it view here, not form, but it's the same thing. So we could do an open pop-up, which would pop up a form. And then we could say, okay, what view are we looking at? And in this case, we're going to look at the notes list. We would say basically where the employee number equals, the employee number that's here. How do we want it ordered? After that, we can have it do other properties and things here. But one of the other things I want to point out is if you don't want to select this way, you also have the ability, you've got this action catalog here. And so in here, you can see many of the different properties this way. I'll move me out of the way here. And so we've got these change view, close, open pop-up, things like that. By the way, the pop-up pops up over on top of another view, where a change view changes the browser window from one window to another window. That's the difference between the view and the pop-up. But if we don't want to go searching for any of those, and these are all closed, if we just remember, I remember it's pop-up something, as we type in letters in this action catalog, it'll automatically narrow down the list of actions to what we want. And so we can click on open pop-up, and I can go ahead and, come on, doesn't want to drag over for some reason. I think something locked up on me. Hold on for a second. There we go. And so I can drag over this open pop-up over here and do it that way as well. It just depends on how well you want to do that. Notice also that we have parameters here that will help us choose what we're looking for. So if we, just like we have expressions in standard access, we have the ability to do that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and close that and save it. And so now we've got just a basic button. What I want to show you also is let's look at the properties of one of these other text boxes. So if we look at the actions here, you'll see that we have on click and after update. Now, if you're like me, I'm used to having a dozen more different properties here. I might have a before update. I might have an on change. I might have a double click, or just a bunch of other different properties. So here we're kind of limited to on click and after update, but you can do a lot with these buttons. In this case, we can do an after update. Click on that, and again, we're taken back to this macro interface where we can pick and choose what we're working with. While we're in here, I want to point out a couple different things here. The first one is that there's what's called comment. Comment is similar to us putting a little accent line and then typing a note in VBA. In this case, I'm going to just put in this as a comment. And when I click off of it, you'll see here that when I'm going to go ahead and save this, I'm going to come back into it. And so you'll see here that when it collapses down, you see this little slant and this asterisk. So I can actually choose expand. If I'm on here, I can expand this, or I can expand all. This is something that I really, really like, this collapse and expand. And the reason why is because there's a neat feature in here called group. And what group does, and I'm just going to call this group 1, but let's say that we have a lot of different actions that we do, and I'm just going to, it doesn't matter, I'm just going to choose a bunch of different things here. Doesn't really matter. So in here, I'm going to collapse these actions. What this does is it actually groups all of those actions together. So if I have, let's say, I'm going to do another group 2, and I'm going to put a bunch of junk in here as well. And now I'm going to collapse everything. So the really cool thing I like about this is that when you write a lot of code, a lot of VBA code, or a lot of module type code, this is really nice because it just gives you the ability to just view that group of information. And it gives you kind of a little snapshot of what it is. And then when you hit on the plus, you can go in and actually edit those. So we could expand all, and we could see all the properties of everything. We can collapse it, and it collapses down into these little groups. So that's something I really like about this. In this case, I'm not gonna save these changes here, so I'm going to say no. Okay. So so we're going to go back in the data property of this text box. We've got the control name. I prefer to do txt last name, but that's how they default it. You've got what your control source is, so it shows all the different choices within your record set, and then you get a default value if you want to put in a or whatever kind of information there. Also under formatting, we've got a tooltip, so we can have a little tool tip there. We've got visible, so you've got that there, and so we're gonna go ahead and save this. We're gonna launch this app, and so now what we'll see is we can hover over. We can hover over this. It's the staff person's last name. We can hover over this. This is open notes. You can click on it. It'll open up the note in a pop-up window. And again, the pop-up window opens on top of another window, so we can't click back here. So it's kind of opening up in a pop-up modal format. So you can go ahead and close that. So it's really easy to work with those kind of things. And you can see the data sheet works exactly the same way. Okay, let's go back in. We're going to go back into, this is probably a good place here. Does anybody have any questions yet? Go ahead and post something in the chat window if you have a question. While you're doing that, I see, looking around, we've got Warren is from Canada, Judy's from Portland, Walt is here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. That's where I'm at as well. And it says Brent is originally from South Africa, but he's in the UK. So that's pretty cool. We get people from all over the place. It's kind of funny. I actually run the Michigan Access User Group as well. And the last 3 times I've held the Michigan Access User Group meeting, I've had people from either Italy, Israel, or London. And so nobody from Michigan, only people from other continents, other places, other countries outside the U.S., which is really funny. But so yeah. And by the way, speaking of which, is there? I'm going to go ahead and if I jump, I'm going to open up my web browser for a second here. Just kind of do another plug. Is that if you go to AccessUserGroups.org and you go to the main site, the main site will give you the other chapters. So you know, like we saw that Warren is from Canada. Notice here, Warren, that there is a Access Canada as well. So if you want to talk about Access Desktop or anything there, you're welcome to join that group as well. Also, Juan Soto puts on this SQL Server with Access group. I haven't joined that group, but I understand it's really good, really a good group as well to join. So good. I see Clint is from Eugene, Oregon. Yeah, and so one of the questions that popped up is if you delete a datasheet view, can you get it back? And yes, you can. You can go ahead and create another group. You can create another view from there. So if we how do I do that again? So we can either we can do it from here, do a data sheet view, and then we just need to choose, okay, what are we using? We're using tasks, and then we just need to drop in, what fields we're working with there. Yeah, good. Good. So that's a great question. And again, if you have other questions, go ahead and please point them here. One of the things I also want to point out about this is if we look at design and we're looking at a field, you'll notice that we're really limited on the type of format that we can see. So we've got the only choices we have up here in the upper left. We've got bold, italics, underline. We've got the font size, and then we've got left, center, right justification, align right, and then we've got colors, some colors, which is the foreground, but we don't even have a background. And so what Microsoft is trying to do is give you just kind of a really sleek look to work with. As you add different properties to this, like back color and things like that, all of those take up more memory in the browser world, so they don't do that. But if you really want that, I can actually click on the form, and I can choose an action as part of the form, and I can say on load, let's set the property, and for the let's go ahead and choose last name, text box. And so for the property, we can actually choose a back color, and then we can put in the value for that. So I can't remember what color that is. Let's go ahead and save this and test it. I'm trying to remember if I need to have that pound sign there or not. Nope, I don't. And so you can see I can set that that back color. Now this is pretty gross back color because I can barely read Jack's last name. But you can set back color and some other properties there. It's just a matter of knowing where to go. So if I go back to Access, and again on load, oh yeah, it shifted to a different color here. let's go ahead and do. Let's do something else. But you'll see here, I'm going to go ahead and do another. I'm going to do another set property. I'm going to do first name. And this is nice too, because as I type things, it'll automatically fill. And then we have, let's look at the other properties that are here. So we've got properties enabled, visible, for color, back color. We can change the caption or we can change the value. So that gives you the ability to do that. Now, if you combine that with an if-then statement, the way that if-then is a little different in the way that we're used to. So if we have something like if the last name text box is null or equals 00, then we can drop. You can see I can actually move this around, and I can say set the property of the back color to, I don't know, of something else. So we'll go ahead and save that. And now we'll go ahead and launch this. And so now, if I edit this, I get rid of that. Oh. So I must not have that. I must not have that set correctly. So it must be. I must have a different property there. But it gives you the ability to. Let's just verify that. You know what? I may not have. Let's double check. I may not have saved it. Nope, I didn't. Sorry about that. So let's do that again. Let's see what that does. Save that. Close it. We want to save our form. Just whenever you're working with web forms, you got to remember to save and close every. You want to save often is my rule of thumb. Now we'll test this again. Well, I did something wrong there. There must be a different null property there because I'm setting it to black for some reason. So, okay, what else? So the other thing I want to point out here, I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to choose Edit, and you'll see the subforms down here. It automatically creates a little tab for us. So we've got a tab here for notes, tasks. And if we wanted to, we can add another tab. Here's the caption. Here's the data source. And again, we would want to pull one of these sources from here to add another tab. But that's automatically built in for you. One thing I want to point out is I'm going to go back to Home, and I want to look at a couple of these other options. And didn't you do that? Okay, so I've got a question here. Didn't you do that event on the onload event? I thought I changed it on the last name, but let's check. Yeah, so this is on change, or I'm sorry, after update. Let's take a look here. I did have this one. Yeah, I did do this. You know what? Let's get rid of this. Maybe that's interfering there. That's a good point. Thanks for pointing that out. Let's try this again. Let's go ahead and save this. And you can see if I click, you can see I'm starting to open a lot of these different tabs. So that's the one downside of hitting open in browser instead of refresh, is that. So let's try this again. Yeah, so that turns it black. but for some reason it's not turning it back white. But that's all right. You get the idea. I can also do length. The length is less than 0 or whatever kind of a thing too as well. And I'm going to go ahead and close out some of these tabs that we don't need. Okay. So the other thing I want to point out is just in this area that we're looking at, you can see here that we have queries. We have a blank view, list view, datasheet view. We've got a macro, and we've got a data macro, and then we've got an onStart macro and deploy macro. The big thing that's missing here is that there are no reports. So, the problem with reports is that you're viewing those reports in a browser window, and so because of that, when you're printing something, you're printing all the stuff that goes along with that browser. So you have to be really careful with that kind of stuff. So you can create a datasheet view or a list view that looks like a report or mimics a report, but it's not actually a true report. And so that's one thing that you're missing. The other thing I want to point out is we've got blank view and list view. When we create a blank view, what it does is it gives us this window, and yes, we can choose, what table we're linking it to. We can go ahead and drop in, fields that we want to. We can add existing fields. I'm going to get rid of these. I'm just going to highlight these and hit delete. I can drag over the fields that we want. I can even drag over multiple fields that we want. But what's missing from this is that we no longer have the filtering area on the left-hand side. And that's not something that we can add back into a blank view. So if you ever want that filtering, you have to start off that view with being a list view. And once it's a list view, and you've got different fields in here, you can edit this to your heart's content. But if you have a view that's a blank view, you can't add it into a blank view. So that's something I want to point out. Let's talk about these other attributes here, or these other options here. So we've got query, we've got blank view, list view, and datasheet view. I think we understand those now. We've got macro and data macro. Think of data macro to replace your record sets. It replaced the whole dim RS as a record set and then looping through your record set. What a data macro does is it allows you to look up a record that matches certain properties, or you can say for any record that matches these properties, do something with that record. So that's kind of what a data macro does. So you can create the data macro, and then you create a macro that calls that data macro to do whatever you want it to do. We also have an onStart macro. Think of that as the AutoExec macro. And we've got onDeploy macro. And your onDeploy macro is basically when you are upgrading your system when you're deploying your system, it'll run that. So let's see where we are on time. It's about 8:06. The last thing that we'll kind of cover, and then any questions that you want to start asking in the chat window, that would be great. So I just want to go through our controls that we have up here. Is we've got our text window, we've got our labels, our control buttons, and then you've got your web browser controls, combo box. The nice thing I like about these text boxes are that they'll autofill as you type them in. And again, if we go back to our browser window again, if we know that WorkSmart is in there, that's not a good example. if basically it'll auto fill in the information as you're doing it. So here, I can, whoops, let's discard that. So you've got your combo box, your check boxes, you've got your image, and this is your autocomplete control. So this, an autocomplete control, we can take a look at that, is you can base this onto another field, and I'm in the way. And so if you have a field, you can have it going ahead and starting to fill in that kind of information. I know one of the apps that Judy had shown us before is an app that is for serving food, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and those kind of things. So for her autocomplete control, it might be for entering breakfast or entering scrambled eggs or whatever kind of a thing. So you can use an autocomplete control to fill in that information. You've also got your hyperlink, your subviews, list controls, and related items. So you've got all those as well. So yeah, that's really the basics of Access 101. Kind of give you a tour of all those different kinds of things. So what kind of questions do people have? I know I've gone through a lot of stuff very quickly, so if there's anything that you want me to go back in and cover again, I'm more than happy to do that. Or if you have suggestions on something that you'd like to see in a future month, please go ahead and jot that down, and I'll add that to the list of things to talk about in the future. So somebody asked, how do you use the web browser control? It's kind of like a browser within a browser. It allows you to utilize like Google Maps or things like that within there. So we can go ahead and drop that in. So we've got that. And so in here we've got, what is the default URL? Let's say we do maps.com. I don't think I need HTTP, but let's add it just in case. I'm not going to have a control source there for now. Let's go ahead and save this. Okay. Let's try that again. Should load. Come on. I did put it under. No, it's right. It's interesting. Did I not save it? Looks okay. It doesn't want to show. Maybe it doesn't like it. Displays there, Let's try using this one instead. Maybe it doesn't like the redirect. Okay. Let's give it a minute. That's kind of odd. I don't know why it's not appearing there. Interesting. Judy, I see you're still on there. Have you run into that before, where it's not displaying?
I haven't actually used that one, but I've used the one where you load the Bing app from that browser.
Right. I was just thinking about just from the web browser.
Yeah, I haven't done that one.
Just for kicks, I want to see if it's just a hate Google thing. Interesting. Yeah, I haven't run into that. I'm surprised by that. I'm surprised it's not displaying that. I don't know.
Did you say?
Yeah, that's pretty weird. One of the things that Judy was talking about was there's what's called Office Web Apps, which unless they change the name, they've changed the name a couple times. But what that is it gives you the ability to drop in things like either Bing Maps or a charting control or something like that to add some capabilities to Access Web Apps that aren't built into it directly. And so you have the ability to do things like that. All right. Any other? To show you how to do that, it's kind of involved. We're in to do that, but if you're interested, jump over to Access Web Apps, and then one of our recorded sessions. Go over to videos, and here it is: building apps for Office into your Access apps. If you watch this was done July of last year. And so they've it works the same way as the way you see here. I understand that they've released a lot more features, a lot more controls that you can build into it. I haven't played with any of those, but this would be a great place to start. It's kind of involved to get it. Any questions, guys? A couple people drop off. I know that it's 8:16 Eastern time here, and I know when people are in different parts of the country, that's one thing that Giorgio mentioned is that he's several hours ahead of us, and so it's it's the middle of the night for him to join us, so he hasn't been able to watch any of ours. So I see another question popped up. Do I know if Microsoft plans to improve the interface at all? I sure hope so. Microsoft had announced, it's probably been over a year now, that they were stopping development of the Access desktop environment, and all of the resources were going to be put into enhancing Access web apps. And I know one of the things that they've been talking about doing is they discontinued InfoPath, and they were planning on taking the InfoPath capabilities and pulling it into Access Web Apps. We haven't seen any of that. So that's the hope. I have not played at all with Office 2016, which is supposed to be released, I think, in the next few months. So I haven't seen that at all to see if there's any enhancements. But that's definitely the hope, is that they'll continue to enhance Access Web Apps. We've been a little bit disappointed in the MVP community in that we've really only seen two major changes in the last year. One of those is Excel, the ability to download a datasheet to Excel. And then the other one is the ability to email other people that are in the same domain from within the web app, which I've not utilized because it's really not purposeful for me at all. So hopefully they'll step up more of that kind of stuff. No, they're not going to discontinue the desktop version of Access. That's going to continue. They just said that they're going to discontinue any major enhancements to the desktop version. So the desktop version will continue to be out there and used, and that still the vast majority of my clients, 95% of my clients, are using Access Desktop, and they probably will be for the foreseeable future. But all the enhancements are going to be in Access Web Apps, so I've heard. So, but they've said that they won't be taking any of the features away from Access Desktop either. I know for a while there they were discontinuing some different feature, retiring some features. So I don't believe they'll be doing any more of that, but who knows? We'll see. Great. Well, I appreciate you all joining us. Hopefully you can join us again next month. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to jump on and jump on the main website and post any topics that you'd like to see. Make sure you join so you get reminders from Lucy of upcoming seminars. And again, thanks for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the future. Thanks again, guys. Bye.